Is it a struggle? Yes, we have to realize our strengths and our weaknesses. Hi, and welcome to Why Not? And I'm your host, Janice, helping others to reach their goals by providing inspiring topics and guests to give you the information you need to know to reach your goals and get you from here to there and from ordinary to extraordinary. Welcome. And today, our topic today is recognizing signs of domestic violence. And today is my special guest is Anthony Ward Jr. He is an MSCP and LCPC licensed counselor with family, marriage, and individual. He's going to help me discuss this topic. Welcome, Anthony. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me once again.
Thank you. And thank you for coming on. I know this isn't the happiest topic, but it's something that we need to talk about, especially during the pandemic, going through this time before, after that. Unfortunately, even during the pandemic, we were close in the house, issues arising, stress arising, that we saw more cases of domestic violence, even going over the news, that they get escalated to even violence that ended in fatalities.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what is recognizing the signs. What exactly is domestic violence, Anthony?
All right. So domestic violence, domestic abuse doesn't always have to be physical. It can be
Right.
financial. So there are times where someone could be restricted by their partner to not be able to do anything outside of the purview of their spouse or their partner. There is the physical abuse. There's also emotional abuse.
Right.
And there are ways that looks from outright yelling to just degrading someone, if it's emotional abuse, to making someone think less of themselves in some other way. And then physical abuse can be where you're throwing, hitting, punching, slapping, threatening them with physical pain, even if you never actually touch them. All those things can be signs or types of abuse.
So domestic abuse, and I shouldn't have just called it violent, but domestic abuse is even if they're not touching you, it's just maybe they're controlling you. Well, you can't go to this person's house, or that I don't want you calling your family anymore. Or even I'm going to take even all of your paycheck. You can't have any money or do anything without me having that control and telling you what to do. Then we have the violence. So it's not always the violence that even starts it, because even with the violence, the levels start correct, even with that. And even with the regular abuse, you see the little signs. What do you think some of the first little signs might possibly be that you might be in a relationship that might develop into domestic abuse?
So I think big thing is understanding first on yourself, how do you manage emotion? And then in your partner, how does your partner manage emotion? I think oftentimes when we experience some level of stress, pain, frustration emotionally, if a person is seeking to make the other person feel what they feel rather than communicate it, right? So there's one thing of saying, I feel angry. So if I communicate to you, I feel angry versus I am attempting to show my anger and cause anger in you. I think that's when you start seeing abuses. When people aren't really able to make that differentiation, that separation between, hey, it's okay for me to feel what I feel. I can communicate it to you through my words without trying to cause the same pain in you. And I think that's when you see abuse start to happen, is when somebody is trying to manipulate you in whatever means in order to feel what they feel and in order for them to have some level of control over you. So I think that those, you want to be aware, like how is someone managing their emotions when they are frustrated, stressed? Are they forcing it upon me or are they communicating it to me? And then also for yourself, learning how to use your words rather than use your actions to try to get your partner to understand you.
So it's definitely, and I understand what you're saying, but I didn't see it before, but there's definitely you need to be aware of the emotions and communicating. Like even for a person who's controlling, well, they feel lonely a lot. So now they're going to control you by keeping you around them because they don't want to feel the loneliness. So instead of
Right.
them communicating that, they're doing their emotions by they're just going to control anything they can and pull you tighter into them.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I can see the difference now. There is a difference. Communication, verbal. Hey, I'm feeling lonely. Nat, no, you can't go out. I need you to be here. That type
Right.
of control. They're showing the emotions.
Yes.
Wow.
Exactly.
So, what can you do when someone is showing you the emotions versus I know you versus them communicating it with? Now, first we got to realize what we're feeling before we help anyone else,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then
Yes.
helping
Yes.
our partner. So, how do we get them in a healthy way to communicate versus show me?
Yeah. So I think again the key is if you develop this within yourself, one that allows you to model effective communication to
Hmm.
your partner. I think it also gives you key signs that something is a bit off here,
Hmm.
so that you're like okay, the way in which you're displaying your emotions. It seems as if you're trying to get me to feel a certain thing rather than
Hmm.
communicate to me what it is that you're feeling. So I think early on in your relationships, we need to be more key or keen on or of how we actually communicate on things. There should be certain things that you won't allow. So
Hmm.
name calling, degrading
Oh.
language, all those things that shouldn't be a part of your communication to your partner, or you shouldn't allow your partner to do that to you as well. So if
Hmm.
you call it out early on, if we talk about it
Right.
early on, then we will have effectively created an environment of communication within our relationship that you won't have those issues pop up. I think that talking about how we each deal with stress. So if you know your own coping strategies of how you manage tough emotions and tough
Hmm.
situations, if you know that for yourself, and then you can have your partner communicate that, hey, when things are tough for you, what is it that you need from me? Having those conversations prior to the situations getting stressful are the ways in which you can navigate it more effectively, more successfully. I think so often we
Hmm.
try to uh, build the ship while we fly it, right?
Right.
Rather than take time to create a foundation that's going to be
Hmm.
helpful for when things get stressful because it will. Like that's called life.
Right.
Life brings stress, and if you know what you do to manage it, and if you can ask your partner to give you some
Hmm.
keys as to how to manage it with them, then you guys can talk it through rather than hurl
Right.
emotional bombs at each other.
Correct. And no one
Mhm.
should, and everyone needs to understand that no one should have to accept and allow someone to abuse you, curse at you, shout at you, raise their voice at you, throw things. I mean, that should already be something in your heart, your mind, your soul that you are not going to tolerate, as well as you shouldn't give it to someone. But
Right.
as a person who might be in a receiving part, you know, if you're not going to accept that, it's because you shouldn't accept that.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's other avenues that you could go to versus staying in something like that.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even when we go to when it gets violent, there's even signs with that. Because some people are like, well, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. I mean, someone doesn't typically go from, now they're just beating you up really bad. There were signs that you would have seen possibly, right?
Right. I think so. Yeah, you want to see how
Mhm.
your partner interacts with other people outside the house. Right? If your
Okay.
partner is a rager while they're driving, is your
Ooh,
partner a person who during while getting customer service, let's say not the best customer service at McDonald's or some sit down restaurant,
yelling
are
and
they
screaming at
are
the
they yelling at
waitress.
people?
Mhm.
Are they berating people? I mean,
Ooh,
those would be key signs to see.
keywords.
If you were to see them, in stressful situations, even like sports, right? So let's say we're doing like a sport night, a game night, and they're
Mhm.
losing, and you're like, oh, you're giving me a whole lot of emotion for just this simple loss. I think that
Ah,
those things,
yeah.
yeah, those things will help you see like, okay, my partner has difficulty with their emotions, difficulty
Hmm.
with expressing their emotions in
Okay.
words rather than actions. Um, so I think that those are some things that can give you some warning signs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are things for warning signs. Okay.
Mhm.
Definitely we need to pay attention. Pay attention how your partner treats other people. 'Cause that could be an early sign on how, if you get deeper in a relationship, how they may treat you.
right? And even asking about their
Mhm.
relationship history. So I think
Oh.
oftentimes people think of the relationship history as like your sexual history, or like how many
Mhm.
people have you slept with. You should also ask, okay, what were the relational dynamics with partners before me?
Okay.
Um, did you have emotional abuse against you, or did you, commit emotional abuse towards another person? Was there any physical things that have ever happened with you in your relationships? I think asking those questions will be give you some keys to like things to be looking out for.
Right. Okay. Now, I know, and I've heard this before when it comes to domestic violence, a woman and a man, even a woman can abuse a man. I've known people in both situations.
Hmm.
Sometimes this starts when the violence very small, maybe a yell or a throw something,
Hmm.
and then it escalates. Can you explain how that works too?
Well, escalation happens when an early boundary wasn't set,
Okay.
right? So if we have this small, frustration that we have with each other, someone throws an emotional bomb or some kind of threat, and if that wasn't spoken about, like, hey, we got
Hmm.
to talk that through.
Okay.
I think that's one reasons why things continue to escalate. Like if you wait, like, oh, he
Hmm.
must have been tired, oh, she must have been distressed, and we
Making
explain it
excuses.
away, right? We
Hmm.
rationalize things away. Then we don't set the right emotional and physical boundary that might be needed to manage that the next time it comes up. We got to talk it through. Um,
Then the
I
next
think
time you may come back and now there's a physical hit.
yes, yes. I think the other thing is substance use. So people
Hmm.
who use substances, so alcohol, any kind of other mind altering substance, that you're more likely to engage in violence or abuse because you're not in full control of your faculties at that point. Like
Hmm.
the parts of the brain that allow you to make good and wise choices aren't there. And so you're just really responding out of emotions.
And then even with people with their own emotions, sometimes they just can't handle their stress outside the home or outside stressors like finances, jobs, and then they come and bring it home in the household.
Right.
How can people um, understand they need to leave that aside, or there's tips that they need to leave work at home or work at work, not at home, and
Yeah.
not bring it or take it out? Because a lot of people don't know where to manifest maybe that anger or how to release it, where they need
Yeah.
to release it naturally, like we said before in another program about finding things that de-stress, but
Hmm.
instead they build it up and they let it out on the next person they see.
Right. So that's what we call displacement, where you're taking whatever you're experiencing from one
Mhm,
person and putting it on someone else. And typically we do that in the home. We are allowed
mhm,
to express our emotions more passionately at home than we are
right,
out in the real world. And so I think that that's why a lot of times domestic violence, domestic abuse happens, is because
mhm,
whatever has been, pent up inside of you or building up inside of you, you just let it out on your family when you get there. So I think, yeah, challenging people to identify what emotions are you feeling, what stresses
mhm,
are you feeling, and how can you effectively manage it, cope with it better.
mhm,
And again, if we do that as partners, if we're talking it through, like, hey, man, when you stress, I could see it on you when you walk in the door. What are the things that we can do to manage that and leave it where it is?
right.
So if you're speaking about it, if we're talking about our emotions and talking about the way we cope with our emotions consistently, I think we will help each other,
Mhm.
talk more effectively about it, but manage it more effectively so that it doesn't continue to increase until it blows up on us. I think also knowing that you don't want to be a part of that, you don't say things or do things that increase the likelihood of something happening.
Right.
So the victim is never to be blamed,
Correct.
but
Yeah.
we realize that a relationship is something that's a two-way street, and we got to
Mhm.
manage the environment that we're all
Right.
a part of. And so knowing that and thinking about that is that we got to talk about this thing often. I think so many times what I've seen is that we wait until things have gone wrong before we start talking about it,
Right.
rather than creating a good foundation of how we can manage stressful situations prior to anything ever, kids would say, popping up. before these things pop off, you need to be able to talk about it. And you should have already set, like, this is what we can do, this is what we cannot do when we're
Boundaries.
feeling stressed or frustrated.
Right.
Yep, set the boundary.
So most I'm hearing a lot of is definitely understand your emotions and understand how to communicate better. Communicate with your
Yes.
partner, communicate how you're feeling to your partner, and also for you to be aware, you need to know how you're feeling and your emotions.
Right.
Learn how to handle stress. You're not bringing the stressors from work, life into the home. Because, yes, your home is your safety. This is our castle. This is our protected little fortress. We can do whatever we want in it. And
Yes.
sometimes we're doing, unfortunately, the things that we should not be doing in our home. We shouldn't be bringing in the anger, the stress, the abuse into the household. Even though it's supposed to be our safety zone, that's not safe if you're bringing it in. So we
Right.
definitely have to communicate with that.
Yeah.
So when it gets to that escalation point, also, like I said, setting boundaries, that's something, like you said, we need to do that before we're even in that relationship. We're not going to tolerate this. What did you do beforehand? Ask questions even before you're in a relationship. So
Yeah.
preventing and recognizing signs of domestic violence, it comes even before you're physically 100% in this relationship. You need to
Yeah.
know this.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Agreed.
So what do you do that now it's in the household? You didn't unfortunately, it didn't set the boundaries. And I can understand. I mean, I've been into it myself before as a child, adult, and you don't set those boundaries because you're always like, oh, well, you're making excuses. We're always rationalizing.
Right.
Now it's getting out of hand. What do you do from there? Do you seek help? Do you take it? What do you do to try to
So,
diffuse it?
right. Always seek help. Um, if abuse is happening, if particularly if violence is happening,
Mhm,
you need outside help. You need someone to be referee at times, or you
mhm,
need someone to just help be a problem solver, so that we don't continue to engage in ways that are hurtful emotionally or physically to one another. Um, so I would say whoever the partner is who feels like they're being victimized, to have a physical boundary. So you can set a verbal boundary of, like,
mhm.
this is no longer tolerated.
Right.
I need this from you. What I will not allow is this from you. So you say it verbally, and when that doesn't work, then make a physical boundary of, like, I'm not going to be here.
Mhm.
Um, we need time away from each other. We need time to deal with either our own issues away, or let's go and meet a marriage counselor, or be just a relational counselor. Like, even if you're not married, if you just want this person in this relationship to continue, let's go and meet with a counselor to talk it through, or meet with some kind of objective third party. So it could be a friend, could be a mentor, could be, a pastor, could be someone else. But you want to meet with them to help them, to allow them to help you guys think
Mhm.
through what is going on with you guys, and help communication to be rebuilt, help safety and trust to be rebuilt.
Mhm.
So again, first the verbal boundary. If that's not being taken into account, then create a physical boundary, and then seek someone else to come in and help.
Now, how much of and like I said, we're not blaming any party at all because I think that affect both. How much of your self-esteem and your confidence of who you are affects both the abuser and the victim? Because I'm assuming that that takes a role in that self-confidence, who you are, and dealing with you. How does that
Yeah.
come into play?
So our belief of self is really big. And any stress, any kind of relational thing. If you are the abused, you feel like, what is wrong with me as this is
Hmm.
happening to me? Did I cause it? Is it my fault? Do I deserve it? And and then when you are the abuser, you
Hmm.
think, oh, like, am I that type of person? Why am I causing this pain upon my partner? Um, so again, your sense of self is going to be challenged from either side of this equation. What you need to do is try to be as objective as possible about what has occurred. You
Okay.
don't need to rationalize it away. It wasn't. Um, we're not looking for, let's say, blame or fault
Right.
finding. We're trying to see that, okay, this situation is negative for
Hmm.
both partners, of being an abuser or being abused, and it needs to stop. And we need to
Hmm.
find a way of managing whatever it is. Like, is it that I'm subtly being aggressive and then the other person is being overtly aggressive? That could be.
Hmm.
Is it that I believe I don't deserve anything better or more, and so I'm willing to take whomever comes?
Right.
Then you need to realize, like, wow, if I've been in successive, and it does seem to happen this way, that you'll be in multiple relationships that are abusive. Like, what is your sense of self? You deserve to be taken care of, to be in a place where you're
Mhm.
safe, and to be in a trusted relationship. So check in on yourself. Like,
Right.
why is it that I'm seeking these same type of partners? Why is it that I'm experiencing the same type of relational dynamics?
So we start
Um,
developing our own constructs of the different things of who we are, what we're going to accept, and why things are happening. And once a lot of them are false, they're false construct of, okay, I'm no one's going to like me because I'm short or something like that. So I just have to take whatever I'm given. Or I had a bad childhood, so I have to take abuse. That's what I've known. So we have to change those construct to healthier ones.
right,
But that's
right,
also something that we can't 100% do on our own. We can ask for God for help. That is one of the main things. Asking God for help, which will give you strength to know what you need to do in the situation, strength, even if you're an abuser, to give me strength, God, this isn't the right thing I'm supposed to be doing. And then we
mhm,
also need to get outside help also to help us with that, even if it's family members, because sometimes family members see the abuse and you may not.
right. That's
So,
true. I think
So
that's really key.
give me a point on what can even family members or an outsider do if you see this, and maybe you never know that person's not aware of it.
Right. So see something, say something. Like, that works for dangerous attacks, like terrorist attacks. Like,
Right.
it works everywhere. Like, if you see something that seems a bit off,
Mm-hmm.
please make efforts towards communicating that to someone. Um, I do, I do see within domestic violence, or domestic abuse, that oftentimes there were attempts made by family members to communicate that they saw
Yeah.
something, that they saw signs, and the individual was not able to take it until abuse was happening for a continued period of time, where
Mm-hmm.
things got so out of hand. But I think, yeah, those who care, when you care for someone and you see something that is a bit off, please find ways of communicating that to them. And it still might happen, but
Right.
if you're planting the seeds, that maybe they'll see those signs quicker and they will
Mm-hmm.
remove themselves quicker. But never just never sit around silently and
Right.
allow things like that to continue to happen. Um,
Because I know some people may not be receptive of it. Maybe a parent sees it or a sibling sees it. That person's being abused, but they don't see it. So you have to come to them lovingly and non-judgmental to
there you
explain,
go.
hey, these
Great
are the
statement.
possible signs. Hear me out. Don't believe me. Let's see, talk to a communication three together. God is there in the midst, and see if your partner can get together with us, and let's see if there is an issue or not. Let's see for
Right.
help.
Yeah. 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 Right. So I think having continual conversation. So let's
Mhm.
say you said it once and they were like, no, we're fine. Like, oh no, I continue to see these signs, and just communicating them multiple times over. I think so often this happens, parent to child, uh, partners, friends, where we believe that one conversation is going to be the end all be all, and that
Mhm.
everything can be wrapped up in one
Right.
conversation. I believe conversations are like plays, right? There's act one, act two, act three, act four, and then the finale. Like, there's going to be multiple um, lines of communication, multiple ways in which we communicate something before it really sinks in. So having a conversation often, continually, don't just think that since you said it once and they didn't hear you and they weren't listening, that they won't take it in. Sometimes it is that repetition that'll allow the conversation to go to where it needs to go, for you to find the right words, maybe a metaphor, maybe a parable, um, some kind of parallel situation that might help. Uh,
Mhm.
so I'd say just have conversations multiple times.
Okay. And to make sure, I mean, this happens, and people need to understand it happens across every ethnic background, every racial background, every
Hmm.
socioeconomic background, poor, rich, middle class. It happens everywhere. But these are signs
Yes.
that need to be known, because not all abuse is, like we said, is not always physical. It could be emotional. It could be mental abuse. It could be out there, and these signs need to be aware of them.
Yes. Yes.
Now, we only have a few more minutes left to go on this, but what are ways people can do to get help? We have a few more
Mhm.
minutes. What are the specific places you think they can get help, or how they can, to keep
All
themselves
right.
safe also?
So there is a national domestic violence hotline.
Hmm.
There is a website you can also go, the www.thehotline.org.
All right.
And so you can call them. I think going to the police, getting restraining orders if needed.
Hmm.
Again, removing yourself. Don't keep coming back home if the abuse is something that's continuing. Like, remove yourself until you guys have gotten help together, gotten help apart. So I think that finding, uh, you know, family members that you can stay with, go talk to someone in church, talk to someone even at work. Like, there are EAPs, so the assistant
Right.
employee assistance programs that you
Correct.
can also call.
Get free
There's so many
counseling.
resources out there.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, to seek counseling. There's so many places out there. Like, just don't sit there in pain silently. Like,
Right.
really go and
Because
get more information.
go and get more information, more help, because one slapping, you justify it and you make up 3 weeks later. Now it's a push. You make up 4 weeks later. Now it could be a black eye. Uh,
Hmm.
he's nice and kind again, or she's nice and kind again to you. And then a year from now, it could be pushing you through a wall or breaking your arm. It starts escalating the more you don't set those boundaries. And
Right.
then once you see it's escalating, the longer you stay in there, that's telling that abuser you're going to accept it, and it's bringing down your persona, your self-confidence, and what you're going to accept, and you stay there longer.
Right.
So they
Sure.
do need to get help.
Hmm.
And it's something that is just getting widely known. You see the violence that's escalating that. Okay,
Yeah.
it's amazing how just the news is just horrible with COVID. um 30 seconds, what can you give a person to give them something for hope?
Oh, hope in general, or, or just
Hope to
hope
get
that's
out of this
fundamentally.
situation. They're in this situation, they need hope. Give them something
Yeah.
that will inspire them to seek help. Or
Yeah. I mean, you are a valuable person. Like, every person has inherent value, and that means you deserve to feel safe. You deserve to feel loved. You deserve to feel connected to. And so you don't have to accept any of these abusive tendencies, financial, physical, or emotional. Uh, get out, seek help, get connected with people who love you, who care for you, who know you, or seek professional help, and see yourself uh, as being able to experience love, being able to be connected to. So I would just say that like, you have value, you should feel connected, you should feel love, and seek those people that will help you get towards that.
and you don't have to sit there and take that abuse and keep accepting it. There is
Mhm.
places that can help you to get out.
Yeah.
Churches, local organizations, there is help. But once you're out, you have to stay out and not go back,
Hmm.
unfortunately. And
Hmm.
if you do, it's going back with help and counseling with both parties to make
Yes.
things better.
Doing the work, exactly. Hmm.
Well, thank you very much. We're out of time. Thank you very much, Mr. Ward, licensed practice counselor. The topic today was recognizing signs of domestic violence. This is Janice with Why and Why Not. Please like us on Facebook and our YouTube channel. And I hope you get information here. Please check out, if you need help, National Domestic Violence Hotline. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.